we're ninth lit and we're going over vocabulary. We've gotten up to intrigue. Malversation means misbehavior by a public official. Caprice is a sudden, unpredictable action. Circumlocution is use of unnecessary words, large number of words, and large words. And we just did intrigue, which is a secret scheme. So if something is interesting or enticing, it can be intriguing. Did anybody have a sentence with, a definition like, what did you have?
For a sentence for intrigue?
For intrigue, yeah, but as differently from a scheme.
The plan intrigue the detective.
What's your definition for that?
To arouse the curiosity or interest of.
Right, see, that's a different definition altogether. It's an acceptable one, but just make sure that you understand what that means. Intrigue, incredulity. Did you have it at all? Okay, Rachel, incredulity.
The state of being unwilling or unable to believe something.
Yes.
He stared down the street and
Well, you could say with incredulity, or you could say incredulously. That's an adjective. So you can't believe it. It's disbelief. If you're incredulous about something, that's not the word. It's the same word, but incredulity is the act of not believing. You just don't believe. Prognostic, Ian.
Something that foretells.
Yes.
And I said he read a prognostic that told him the future.
You ever heard of a prognosticator? That's the fancy word for, well, usually it's in the context of meteorologists. They prognosticate the weather. They're prognosticators. You don't hear it often, but it has been used before. How about craven, Mallory?
lacking the least bit of courage.
Yeah, so cowardly.
The craven was scared to jump off of me.
It is a noun. It can be an adjective, so it could be craven behavior, or it can be a craven, someone who is a coward. Consummation, Reese.
The point at which something is complete or finalized.
Good.
The store was quiet after the consummation of the sale.
Good. It's complete. It's done. It's finished. Acrimony.
Sharpness, harshness, or bitterness of nature speech.
One more time.
Sharpness, harshness, or bitterness of nature speech.
Good. All that work, bitterness, particularly of speech. Sentence?
The speaker attacked him with great acrimony.
Good. Very good. Levity. Emily.
Lack of steadiness or changeableness, and my sentence was, they managed to find some validity in this situation.
And what the sentence works. What is the definition again?
Lack of steadiness or changeableness.
Okay. And the sentence again.
They managed to find some levity in the situation.
The sentence sounds like what I thought the definition was going to be was excessive or unseeming humor. That would be, I think, that would fit your sentence better. So levity is not the right kind of humor at the right time. Levity is, you shouldn't have it, because it's just because something's funny doesn't mean it's the right time for it to be funny. I used to have a student, over the years, I was just laughing, Mr. Powell, what's wrong with that? There's a lot wrong with it. If you take it by itself, laughter is a great thing, but not in the middle of this. That's not appropriate. So that would be levity, and that's usually inappropriate humor. How about melancholy, Will?
A gloomy state of mind. Melancholy room made everyone sad.
Good. Gloomy, sad, amity, Lauren.
Open relationship.
Good. It's friendship. Sentence.
Everyone wants their family.
Good. I've never seen this movie. I always say this every time I get this word. There was a famous ghost movie called the Amityville Horror. You ever heard of it? It's actually a town in New York, Amityville, and they had these ghost things happening. Of course, the irony is amity means friendship, and horror doesn't mean friendship. So it was kind of an ironic title, the Amityville. But it's a true place. It's a real place. But the opposite of amity, Mallory, would be enmity. Enmity. So, what's enmity?
Feeling of hostility or hatred.
Good.
And then their friendship is likely to injure a public man more than their enemy.
Good. And amity and enmity are opposites. They rhyme. So that might help you remember them. Zach, what about perdition?
Eternal damnation.
Yeah.
And then sinners condemned to eternal perdition.
Right. Perdition is kind of like hell. Some people have used the term to mean that. And finally, stratagem. Davis.
A cleverly contrived trick or scheme for gaining an end.
Very good. Sentence?
Maybe my own, because I couldn't really find one for this. It was terrible. The cat would always be quiet downstairs at night in order to stratagem past the other kittens.
Okay, stratagem is a noun, so you use it as a verb. I could imagine the context, if you're using it correctly, it's a trick or a deception. Or it's something that tricks or deceives. So, you know, a general could use a stratagem. A bank robber or a criminal could use a stratagem. Your ex-best friend could use a stratagem to trick you or something. It's a trick, but it's usually intended to hurt. All right, so this is what I say. The 8th with it, which is Wednesday, Tuesday. So this quiz is on Tuesday. It's only, 12 words? How many words?
15.
Only 15, it's not 24. So that should be easier for you to study. So let's take a look at this this passage that some of you were able to do and some of you weren't. We started on 32. I might read parts, and some of you didn't do it. But we might read parts of this, but let's take a look at the questions. We ended on question, let's go to question 13. You could have done that one because that one was from the previous reading, but I don't think we answered 13. 13 says by the way, let's review. What's the first temptation? Starts with the letter P, yeah. Pleasure. What's the second temptation? Yeah.
Power.
So this is dealing with the power. The second tempter states, power obtained grows to glory, life everlasting, and permanent possession. Read 1 Chronicles 29:11. What is the second tempter trying to say about earthly power, and what does Scripture say by comparison? So let's take the second part of that. What is the tempter saying? Power obtained grows to glory, life everlasting, and permanent possession. What's his view of power? He says it's a permanent, permanent possession. It grows to glory. Yeah.
He means like he'll have power in heaven.
I guess if it's permanent, you're right. So that doesn't sound right from the get-go, as we say. We all know that nothing lasts forever except those things which are eternal. But anyway, I'm going to read this to you. 1 Chronicles 29:11. Anybody look it up? Yeah. Do you remember what it said?
It's talking about like how you give the glory to God or something.
Yeah, I'll read it. Yours, O Lord, is the greatness and the power and the glory. That sounds like the end of is that what we say when we say the Lord's Prayer? At the end of the Lord's Prayer, sometimes we attach something that sounds like that to it. Yours, O Lord, is the greatness, the power, and the glory, and the victory, and the majesty. for all that is in the heavens and the earth is yours. I think it's a reminder what, Will, if you compare that with what the tempter says, that power leads to glory and you can keep it forever. What does Scripture say that contradicts that?
I think God has power in that.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite Psalms is Psalm 2. It talks about how God laughs at his enemies. And believe me, there are people that oppose God. They are enemies to God. The Bible says, in a way, you and I were enemies to God before we were saved. We have peace with God now that we're saved. So, but these countries and these leaders that think they're so great, it talks about God laughing in heaven at them. He's not impressed. All right, we did the alliteration. Don't you have that one, number 14? All right. And we did 15, I think. Well, let's review it. Megan, you have this in front of you, the questions. Would you just read question 15?
Explain the following quote. I was a king who armed his battle but what was once exaltation would now be only mean.
Now, this was Thomas's response to the power of temptation. So what is it? You can answer it, or would you like to answer it? Anybody? Yeah, Reese.
He's saying that as Archbishop, he could influence the king and still had a lot of power over what happened.
Yeah, he says, I was the king, which is not true literally, but he had so much power, right? That he could influence the king. And so what would be the reason why Thomas wouldn't want to be chancellor again, even though he was almost king? Yeah.
He has more power as Archbishop because he controls, like, who goes to heaven and who goes to hell.
Yeah, in their view of things, that's true. He could control, because the power of excommunication was one of his. Actually, he couldn't do that. The Pope could do that, but he could recommend it. And so that's why it would be a demotion to become chancellor again. All right, so look at number 16. This is where we got messed up. First of all, write some of this down I'm about to tell you. The third tempter represents the barons, B-A-R-O-N-S. These are not the king, but it's the peerage, as they call it, the people like the dukes and earls and counts and viscounts and all that, and barons. So, yeah, this is the third tempter. He represents that group. Now listen, I'm going to read part of what the tempter says. He says, well, my Lord, on page 31, if you didn't read it, then this would be a good time to hear it. Well, my Lord, I am no trifler and no politician. To idle or intrigue at court, I have no skill. There, the word intrigue is a verb, and he's using it as whoever gave us that definition, to plot or scheme. I know a horse, a dog, a wench. I know how to hold my estates in order. David, you doing all right?
Oh, yeah.
Gotcha. A country-keeping lord who minds his own business. It is we country lords who know the country, and we know how. And we who know what the country needs. It is our country. We care for the country. We're the backbone of the nation. We, not the plotting parasites about the king. Excuse my bluntness. I'm a rough, straightforward Englishman. What words were repeated 7 times there? 6 times, and then another word that means the same thing. Yeah.
Country.
What word do you associate with country? Like if you love your country, what would be the word that starts with the letter P that would describe it? Say it again?
Well, it would be a patriot.
Patriotism, right. I just couldn't hear you. So this is the third P. This is the third. He says, we're going to tempt you by appealing to your patriotism.
Is that the fourth one or the third?
The third one. And he reminds Thomas that you can't become friends to the king again. Thomas already knows that. But on page 32 he says, but real friendship, once ended, cannot be mended. Sooner shall enmity turn to alliance. The enmity that never knew friendship can sooner know accord. So he's saying, I agree with you, Thomas. You can't become king. Who told him he could do that? Which temptation?
The second one, and then third one, power.
The first one. Remember the pleasure one? He said, become friends to the king again, and things will be just great. Just be easy. Don't work so hard. Don't worry so much. You know, just have a good time. It's tempting, isn't it? So he agrees with him. And then look at the top of 33. He goes on. He says, we are for England. We are in England. You and I are lords. You and I, my lord, are Normans. So he's talking about we are the really patriotic people. Not the king. We are. And then he goes on to say at the bottom of the page, he says, look at the bottom of 33, for a powerful party which has turned its eyes in your direction to gain from you, your lordship asked. For us, church favor would be an advantage. Blessing of Pope, powerful protection in the fight for liberty. You, my lord, in being with us, would make a good stroke at once for England and for Rome, ending the tyrannous jurisdiction of king's court over bishop's court, of king's court over baron's court. And then he gets, basically, he gets really serious. He says, the tempter says at the top, which you helped to found, but time passes forgotten. We expect the rise of a new constellation, Thomas. And if the archbishop cannot trust the king, how can he trust those who work for the king's undoing? So let me just boil it down. The third tempter is suggesting that Thomas rebel against the king. The first tempter, be friends with the king. The second temptation, work for the king as chancellor. But this guy's taking the exact opposite approach. Betray the king. Rebel against the king. And what is Thomas's response? If the archbishop cannot trust the king, how can he trust those who work for the king's undoing? And then let's look at Thomas again. He says, if the archbishop cannot trust the throne, he has good cause to trust none but God alone. I once ruled as chancellor, and men like you were glad to wait at my door, not only in the court, but in the field. And in the tilt yard I made many yield. Shall I, who rule like an eagle over doves, now take the shape of a wolf among wolves? Pursue your treacheries as you have done before. No one shall say that I betrayed a king. So do you understand his argument, why he would say, no, I'm not going to do what you're asking me to do? If anybody picked up on it. Let me put it in these terms. Hypothetical situation. There's a girl who has a boyfriend. And the boy kind of dumps the girl, kind of betrayed her, because he liked another girl. And so he starts talking to the other girl. And the other girl likes him, you know, and wants to be maybe his girlfriend. Why would it be wise maybe not to be a girlfriend to a guy who betrayed somebody else? What's the thinking behind that? Yeah.
Well, if he dumped the other girl for get another girl, he's gonna dump you to get another girl.
Exactly. And that's Thomas's argument. He said, you're going to betray the king, so you're guilty of betrayal, of cheating, and yet you're asking me to trust a cheater? How can you trust a cheater? That's the problem with cheating. Because once you've cheated, you kind of lose that trust that people have, whether it's on a test or with a person you lose that trust and you can't be trusted again. So that's his argument. Do you understand it? If you're betraying the king, how could I trust you? And so he doesn't. So let's go to the fourth tempter. Look at question number 16. What is ironic about the third tempter's appeal to Thomas's sense of loyalty and patriotism? Yes.
I guess he's trying to just tempt him to betray his country.
But he's doing it by saying you're a real loyal to your country. But he's asking the man who's loyal to his country to betray his country. That's ironic. You're asking to do the very thing that you claim, to go against the very thing you claim you're doing. So let's look at question number 17, the fourth temptation. Who was our fourth temptation? Who was going to read that? Did we get that far? Would you read it?
What page?
We're going to start on page 35 with the four. It's just between you two, so Will, you can read your part. She's going to read. Lauren's going to read the tempter.
I do.
Yeah, she's going to start at the top, the fourth temptation.
Well done.
Yeah, that's right.
Well done, Thomas, your will is hard to bend, and what we decide you shall not lack of him.
Who are you? I expected 3 visitors, not 4.
Do not be surprised to receive one more. Had I been expected, I didn't care for it. I always receive expectation.
Who are you?
As you do not know me, I do not need a name, and as you know me, that is why I come. And know me, but have never seen my face. To meet before was never time or place.
Say what you came to say.
It shall be said at last, what some invaded was forth into the past. Wantonness is sweetness, as for the king, his heart and hatred shall have no end. You know truly the king will never trust, twice the man who has been his son. For our youth cautiously employ your services as long as you have to learn. You would wait for trap to snap, having served return broken and fresh. As for barons, envy of lesser men is still more stubborn than king's anger. Kings have public policy behind private profit. Jealousy raising possession of the king. Barons are employable against each other. Greater enemies must kings destroy.
What is your counsel?
Bear forward to the end. All other ways are closed to you, except the way already chosen. But what is pleasure, kingly rule, or rule of him beneath the king? The craft in corners, stealthy stratagem, the general grasp of spiritual power. Man oppressed by sin, since Adam fell, you hold the keys of heaven and hell. Power to bind and loose, find Thomas finds, king and bishop under your heel. King, emperor, bishop, baron, king. Uncertain mastery of melting armies. War, plague, and revolution. New conspiracies, broken hearts, pacts to be master or servant within an hour. This is the course of temporal power. The old king shall know it when at last breath, his sons to enter, he bites broken teeth. You hold this theme, Lynn, Thomas, in the thread of eternal life and death. You hold this power, hold it.
Supreme in this land?
Supreme, but for one.
That I do not understand.
It is not for me to tell you how this may be so. I am only here, Thomas, to let me tell you what I know.
How long shall this be?
Say what you know already. Ask nothing of you, but think, Thomas, think of glory after death. When king is dead, there is another king, and one more king is another man. King is forgotten, and another shall come. Saint and martyr rule from the king. Think, Thomas, think of enemies dismayed, speaking in peasants, fighting in the shade. Think of pilgrims standing in line before the good and eternal shine. From generation to generation, as you remain in supplication. Think of the miracles by God's grace, and think of your enemies in another place.
I have thought of these things.
That is why I tell you, your thoughts have more power than things to compel you. You have also thought sometimes at your prayer. often waking early in the morning, when the bird cries and thought of her this morning. That nothing lasts, but the wheel turns. The nest is riffled and the bird mourns. But the shrine shall be pillaged and the gold spent, the jewels gone for light ladies' ornament. The sanctuary broken and its stores swept into the laps of parasite seniors. When miracles cease and the faithful desert you, and men shall only do their best to forgive you. And later is worse, when men will not hate you, enough to defame or to exact you. But pondering the qualities that you lack, you will only try to find the historical fact. And men shall declare that there was no mystery about this man who played a certain part in history.
But what is there to do? What is left to be done? Is there no enduring sound to be born?
Yes, honest, yes, you have thought of that too. What do you compare with glorious things, dwelling forever in presence of God? What earthly glory of king or power, what earthly pride that is not poverty, compared with the riches of heavenly treasures? Seek the way of martyrdom, make yourself the lowest on earth, be high in heaven, and see far off below you, where the goal is fixed. With persecutors in time of crime, with parched passion beyond execution.
No, who are you tempting with my own desires? Others have come temporal tempters, with pleasure and power at palpable price. But what do you offer? What do you ask?
I offer what you desire, I ask what you have to give. Is it too much for such a vision of eternal grandeur?
Offers offered, feel goods, worthless but real. You only offer dreams to damnation.
You have often done things.
Is there no way in my soul's sickness does not lead to damnation and pride? I well know that these temptations mean present vanity and future torment, and sinful pride be driven out only by more sinful. Can I neither act nor suffer without perdition?
You know and do not know what is to act or suffer. You know and do not know that action is suffering, and suffering action. Neither does the agent suffer nor the patient act, but both are fixed in eternal action and eternal patience, to which all must consent that it may be willed, in which all must suffer that they may will it. For the pattern may subsist, and that the wheel may turn and still, be forever still.
Okay, thank you. I know it's hard to understand this, but anybody want to give a effort to what the fourth temptation is? Starts with the letter P. Yeah.
That you have a part to play in history or something. That you have a part to play in history and like revealing the future.
You're on the right track. What is that part that he has to play?
He has to be like become a saint or whatever.
He has to what?
Become a saint. Or
Yes. And what is a quick fire way? Now, Protestant churches believe that if you're a believer, you're a saint. And I'm a saint. But Catholic churches would say you have to be kind of a special person to be a saint. So that's how they're using it here. In the context of this, what must he do to be a saint? Yeah.
Did he say like humble himself?
Say it again.
Like humble himself almost?
Yeah, in a way, it's just the opposite of that. It looks like humbling.
But it's like humbling yourself.
It looks like you're humbling, but you're really. Is it possible? What's a wrong reason to be humble? Can you think of a wrong reason to be humble? Yeah.
To like receive glory for yourself.
To receive what?
Like glory for yourself, which is like the opposite of
Exactly. Yeah, man.
Is the word pride?
The word is pride. The fourth temptation is pride. Did you hear Jude? He said, if you humbled yourself, look how humble I am. I'm a pretty humble guy. Look at me. Look at me. Look what I'm doing. Look how humble I am. That would be the opposite of humility. As soon as you think you're humble, you're probably proud. So what is the act that he's being tempted to perform that would, it was an act of humiliation, but it would really be pride? What is that act? What's going to happen to him? Probably. Anyway, what's going to happen at the end? Yeah.
He's gonna die and become a martyr.
It's exactly right. Did you hear that? The temptation is to die and become a martyr. You know what a martyr is? M-A-R-T-Y-R? Yeah.
Someone who dies for the belief? Or-
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. In the church, it'd be somebody who died for the church, for God. But to do it for the wrong reason would be wrong. And so that's the temptation, to die for the wrong reason. He needs to get his motivation right. So let's hear, who's the chorus? All right, Emily's gonna read this, and who are our fourth, yeah,
So, right, like, what's the P word?
pride. And I think it was Mallory that figured that out. And the sin behind martyrdom is pride. To be a martyr in order to be famous is pride. That's the wrong reason. Can you think of a reason, a wrong reason to do a good thing? I mean, think of a good thing. What would be a wrong reason?
Because it makes you look good.
If you're doing it just to make yourself look good, then that's the wrong reason. So we're gonna get Emily to read the chorus, and who are our four tempters? 1, 2, 3. Emily's gonna read it, then all four of you are gonna read at the same time, which is kind of creepy. When you do it, it sounds creepy. You're not singing, you're just reciting. So, and it's hard to do, but we'll see how it sounds. So Emily?
There is no rest in the house, there is no rest in the street. I hear restless movement of feet, and the air is heavy and thick. Thick and heavy the sky, and the earth presses up against her feet. What is the sickly smell of the vapor? The dark green light from a cloud on a withered tree. The earth is having to parturition of issue of hell. What is the sticky dew that forms on the back of my hand?
Now, I'm gonna ask, since she was the last word, Lauren, to start. So you're a tempter, right? You're the fourth temptation. But the other three ladies are gonna read with her. But we have, somebody has to lead it, all right? So we're gonna get Lauren to start reading, and read kind of slowly so they can keep up with you. That means the other three have to read with her. I want you to hear what it sounds like, because to me, it's creepy. I don't know what you think. So here we go, Lauren. The four tempters, and read loud enough so you can be heard.
Man's life is a cheat and disappointment. All things are unreal is disappointing. The captive wheel with the pins on the back. The prize is in the social part. The prize awarded for the English essay. The scholar's degree, the statesman's decoration. All things become less real. Man passes from unreality to unreality. This man is also made blind and self-destruction. Passing from deception to deception, from grandeur to grandeur, I will live. Lost in the wonder of his own greatness, the needed society, and the other self.
You did that remarkably well, consider you're sitting in 4 different locations and you've never done that before. Didn't it sound creepy? Doesn't it sound a little, I don't know what it is, why is it? Why is it people talking in unison? Because we never do it, right? Unless you're in front of the school and you got a recitation. But people don't talk like that. They march in unison, but when they talk in unison, so anyway, look at question number 18. How does, 19. How do the four tempters characterize the state of humanity? Let me just read one answer. Man's life is a cheat and a disappointment.
What's the answer?
It's that man's life is a cheat and a disappointment. There's a very negative view of life.
Yeah, what's number 18?
Well, I'll give you the answer. The fourth tempter echoes it. If you said something and your brother or sister repeats it right after you, to you, what is the effect of that?
Copycat.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing?
Annoying.
It's very annoying, and they're mocking you. And so the tempter is mocking Thomas. The words were, action is suffering and suffering is action. That's what the words were. All right, so we go back to the chorus. Who's our chorus again? All right. Do we need the chorus? No, we need the three priests. Who are the three priests? You three guys? All right. I'm gonna ask you to see if you can do as well as the girls. So you're gonna read it together. I'm gonna ask Jude, since he's sitting up front, to lead it.
Thomas, my Lord, by the intractable tide, do not sail in the irresistible wind and storm. Should we not wait for the sea to subside in the night, light the coming of day, when the traveler may find his way, the sailor lays forth by the sun.
Well, that was a close. That was almost as good as the girls. I was impressed with that. So this is why we're running out of time, but I think we've come down to 20. It says, what is the significance of Thomas's line on page 46? Well, we're not there yet, so we'll have to wait. Today Thursday. All right. So what we're going to do next week is you know what we got to do next week. So we're going to start kind of looking at this a little differently, but if we have any more time, we're going to keep reading. And good job, and I apologize for the error. I did that once before, and I was conscious of not doing it. I don't know how it happened. Yeah.
Are we gonna go over like the midterm review thing?
Oh, we what?
Are we gonna go over?
Of course, yeah. Yeah. I want you to hold on to these. I have the others. I think everybody has taken this. So don't keep it. I want them back. If you want to just give it to me back, I'll hold on to it for you. But I don't want you to keep it. And so the book we're reading now will be the next test. It counts as much as this. I thought these were pretty good. Not everybody probably didn't do well as you wanted to, but I thought it was a hard test. I thought they were pretty good. Several A's and B's are in there. And here's another quiz that's old, but you can keep this. If you don't want to hold on to that test, give it to me. I am going to take it back up. If you want to keep it, look over it, you can. You just put it there. Because those are the same.
I thought like supernatural abilities, like like characters like supernatural strength and stuff, and God's meaning about like the others.
We call that superhuman. Supernatural suggests that it's directly from God and it's supernatural. He can kill 40 people. You could argue that's from God, but it's really, that is another element of it, but it's not a superhuman. I just wanted to make that distinction. That's all. Yeah, sure. Yeah, I'll hold on to it for you. Thank you.
I get the question that is supposed to be answered.
Okay.
Do you see them?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, so,
This is okay.
so from what question to what question?
You mean the ones we did last night? Yeah, you can go ahead. I think there was 14 to 17.
Okay, so there's 14, and then there's 17.
Gotcha.
I got all of these.
It sounds like such a sad read.
still have it, I'd like it back unless you want it.
Unless I want it.
Well, you still gotta get it back, but if you wanna look over it tonight, you can keep it, I just kinda have to have it back. And if you need to look over it, keep it, but if not, I don't want you to lose it, I wanna hang on to it.
And I apologize for not having the literature to the
Well, that would be half credit, but the other, you showed me the other, right? The questions
I
for,
didn't have a question.
okay, well, if you do those, I'll give you full credit. Since I'm-
I do apologize.
Okay, it's fine. Just get it to me. I'll give you some credit.
I know.
What's the water?
It says 11.
Yes, you were.